By the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Kiss 107.1 is WTLC Saginaw, home of the Steve Harvey Morning Show, and simply the best R&B all day. We're everywhere. Listen live on your iPhone or Android, in your car, on the JOB, or live on KissWTLC.com. We're Kiss 107.1.
Well, good evening and welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am so glad to be able to have the opportunity to share this hour of power with you on this evening. I certainly want to give a shout out to everyone who is out there listening. Tell your friends, tell your play cousins, tell your baby mama, tell everybody out there that Straight Talk is on and it is time to tune in for a prolific conversation. Today, we're going to have a real serious conversation. We're going to talk about reparations. I want to have a real conversation about reparations. Is this a real thing? Is it time for us to have this conversation? Is it time for us to talk about it? What is going on? We see that even in Jamaica is now positioning themselves to go before the UK, and they demanding what they deserve. And so I think it's really cool and a great time in America for us to be able to have a conversation such as this. So I'm excited about that. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I want to get back to I got the Rob father in the studio with me. Rob, what's going on with you, Rob? How are you doing today? What's good with you, my man?
I've been in radio 21 years, and today was one of the most challenging days I've had. But hey, I'm good. I'm alive, and everything's fixed. And so, as long as you're happy, our audience is happy, then it's all good, baby. It's all good.
What they say, if anything can go wrong, it usually does.
But I don't think that way. I look at the glass half full than half empty, and that's been my attitude. I mean, yeah, I've had my ups and downs at times, but I kick my own self in the butt. But okay, I put my own foot up my butt too. So.
Man, Rob, what are you thinking about this weather?
The weather is the weather. It's climate change. You believe it or not, and yesterday's rain, I thought it was going to rain like, that whole thing from Wizard of Oz. And then all of a sudden, bam, here comes the sunshine. I said, cool, I'll wash my car tomorrow.
Man, this is where Noah's Ark comes in stage left. This was, it was crazy out there, Rob. And, it's funny because I left home and I was thinking, I'm just going to run here real quick. The rain, I'll beat the rain. As soon as I got as far as it possibly could from home, way out on the north side of town, past Walmart on Bay Road, then it just went crazy. And they were like, hey, we want you to come in. And there were businesses trying to get people in because I guess there was a tornado warning. I guess that means that they saw one or spotted one that was on the ground somewhere. And I was like, I'm getting ready to go home. So I was like, we about to put this Jeep effect in full effect. And I was going over curves through puddles. I made it home safely, Rob.
You got a Jeep or something.
Oh, absolutely. We will not be defeated. Then I dared to venture. So I went home for 30 minutes. Right. And I was like, okay, it's safe to get back out to go take care of what I was trying to do. The moment I got out, that was the farthest point I could. It started all over again. I was like, this is crazy. But, hey, this is summer in Michigan. Anything is possible. I took a picture. The raindrops were so big that people thought it was hail, but it was actually how big the rain was and how fast it was coming down. So I want to give a shout out to everybody. Thanks for listening. Everybody that's out there, Jerry, Scott, Jeffrey, Bulls, you guys, let's invite our friends and people that we know to this conversation. We're going to talk about reparations. For African descendants of slaves. And we're going to talk about it in just a few seconds. But y'all know how we start this program off. I always start by talking about what's on my mind. All right. Yeah, I'm good. All right. So first of all, there's I was going to say a 9/11 commission because it seems like the same conversation all over again. But a January 6th commission seems to be moving forward. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is not having it. They are going back and forth. They are going back and forth with how they're going to do this. McCarthy was like, listen, if you don't take Jim Jordan is really a beast. He will thwart every plan that you have. We saw him in operation with the impeachment trial. As much as I don't like him, I respect my man's game. He is a beast. He's crazy. But he knows what he's doing. And so she's like, we're not taking him. And so McCarthy's like, listen, if you're not going to take these 5 that I sent, which are probably the most cantankerous in the Republican Party, he says, then we're not taking anyone. But we have had a breakthrough. There's a young man, and he's a young guy. He's a former military. I believe he was a pilot, Adam Kinzinger. He agreed, as well as Miss Cheney. She just can't get enough of trouble with the Republican Party, Liz Cheney. So they have agreed to be a part of this commission. It's going to be very interesting now to see how we move forward.
I think the hearings start this week, right?
Yeah, it starts this week. And so this is going to be very interesting. I hate that securing our democracy has now become politicized. I thought that was a part of the fabric of what our union was all about. But you know, things happen. We're going to move forward. We're going to see what happens. And we hopefully will begin to get to some resolution, get some understanding. Once again, I started off talking about Jamaica. They have made it official, Rob. They are asking for $10.6 billion in reparations from the UK for the approximate 620,000 slaves. When this was a former British colony, they now are a sovereign state. But they're still a part of that British Commonwealth feeling. But when we look at this, so they have now gone for, they're positioning themselves to ask for the 10.6 billion. And when you look at that, that's not a lot of money. But
that's what I'm going to say. You know, they went cheap.
Yeah, so they went cheap, but there's a reason why they asked for that money, and I think it's going to be interesting when we get to that conversation. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about reparations in greater detail. But I also want to say, man, Rob, have you paid attention to the changing of the tone concerning the vaccination process?
Oh, yes. So hypocritical, so hypocritical.
Sean Hannity, DeSantis, McConnell. Yes. Now it's because it's doing what we said would happen. If we allow this disease to stay in population, if it stays in bodies, if it's continuing and it's having a host, eventually it will continue to mutate. And as it mutates, each mutation is going to be even more deadly and more infectious. And so we see that now happening in half of America, which we understand which half of the America that we're talking about. Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Texas. Do you get a clue there? That part of America is under vaccinated. I think Louisiana said they have less than 37% of their population vaccinated. And so it is running roughshod through those communities. As a matter of fact, one official in Arkansas said that Arkansas it's like the wildfires in California is what is happening now in Arkansas.
The silver lining about the pundits who spoke against it, who made such a fuss, is that now the people who were listening to them will now listen to them. They've listened to them on the right side, and maybe now they'll listen to them now.
But Rob, after you talk craziness for so long, people become embedded, and now they're going to say, you're being forced to say this. The powers that be are now saying this. Yvonne, I got you. The afternoon girlfriend, she said she had to hunker down in the basement. Hey, it was real out there. I'm telling you, tree branches were coming down. I had a blink of power for a second, but we were all good. So there's a whole new tune that they're out there singing. Sean Hannity, when I saw him on Fox News, because I tuned into Fox News to see what's going on, because I want a thought out.
Why you tune into Fox News?
Yes, I do. I want to hear what both sides have to say, the right, the left, the middle, so that we can see. And Sean was on there, and he made an impassioned speech, and it was real. It was an authentic speech. I think that he realized this, and we've been giving some misinformation. We were wrong, and people are going to die because of it. And nobody wants to be responsible for someone's death when it did not have to occur.
Right.
And what we're seeing now are individuals who are being hospitalized. There was one lady who was saying, you know what, I didn't think that it was going to be that bad for my 8-year-old son. My 8-year-old son got it. She says that he was sick for weeks, and he is still, she doesn't know what the lingering effects are. When we're not talking about the initial virus here. Now we're talking about a variant. And we haven't had enough of it in our population to really determine how it's going to operate and how these vaccinations even that we've been given, they've looked at them, across the country. But, sometimes vaccinations have regional, the temperature, the climate, all of those things are different here, and they may play different. But so far, it seems as though those who are vaccinated, are if they're reinfected, because the vaccination again does not stop you from getting the virus. It only stops you from getting the worst forms and the worst outcomes, which are hospitalization and ventilators.
That's important for people to know, because they do think that, well, now I'm vaccinated, I'm invulnerable. But no, if you're around people who are not vaccinated, you should protect yourself.
Man, don't come near me. Don't, Rob. We're in here together. We are both vaccinated, and I know you, my guy. You take care. You're not out there being risky and being wild just because you're vaccinated. Vaccinations don't give you the right to go out there and be crazy.
Exactly.
It just gives you an added protection should you contract that virus. And so I want all of you out there to know it is time to get vaccinated. Those of you who have been saying over and over and over again, well, I don't trust it. It's conspiracy. We don't know what's in the vaccination. You don't even know what's in your Wheaties and your Fruit Loops, whatever it is you're eating in the morning. If you really knew, because most people would be blown away, Rob, to find out the percentage of rat fecal matter that is allowed to be in food and still because I'm just giving you an example. We talk about what we don't know,
exactly.
But the fact of the matter is we don't know half of the things that are going on.
And if you have pre-existing conditions like diabetes or any other disease or virus that you're carrying around, that is all the more reason to check it, because you don't want to get this thing and then and be struck by it.
Absolutely. All right, so I want to get to this, and we're going to talk. I got a caller that's going to come call in a few minutes.
No, she's here.
She's here. Okay, well, this is a great place to bring her in. I want to talk a little bit of those of you who are out there for the HSC and Me Summer STEAM Camp. It's full steam ahead. We just completed, Rob, our middle schoolers, and you were here last week when we had one of our young campers, Mr. Smith here, Roscoe Smith.
Touch my mic.
Yeah, he touched her mic. Rob was like, don't touch my mic. I was like, hey. First lesson in radio, don't touch the producer's mic. He has it set up for you. But the reality, the fact that the cool thing about it, as I say that I touch your mic, Rob, I'm sorry. But the cool thing was we just completed our first week with our middle school students, and it was such an amazing experience. Crystal Drake, say it, the rat poison and blood thinners, but yet people take it. Y'all don't know what y'all taking. Come on, we are all under the mercy. That's why I pray over my food. I bless my food, and I trust that hey, we're going to be taken out by something, but I try to do what I can to mitigate the things that have the ability to have that kind of access to my life. All right, so HSC and Me, full steam ahead. It was a youth empowerment camp. We just finished with the middle schoolers. It was amazing. My brother Jeff Bulls is out there. You're watching. Your son Jordan Bulls was a part of this program. It was absolutely amazing. I want to give a major shout out to the city of Saginaw for those parents who leaned in. You showed up. We didn't have to run or chase kids down. They were present, Rob. They were there before doors were opening up. They were excited about what was happening. And I saw something and a spark that happened in our kids that I have never seen before. And it was exciting. So I want to thank all of those amazing. I want to thank the wonderful people out at Hemlock Semiconductor. Mark Bassett and his crew, Raquel Ledesma, who is their new equity, inclusion, and diversity officer, who kind of manages these types of programs. Garber Management, they showed up because, Rob, initially we were under COVID restrictions, and so this entire thing was going to be virtual. But Dick Garber came in and said, hey, we got to feed the kids. Let's feed the kids. So I want to thank you, Dick, and Garber Management, Delta College, for allowing us to be the first ones to come down and christen that beautiful downtown facility that they had. State-of-the-art, first class. Dr. Goodnow said she wanted to be on first team, and she brought her A game to the first team. And Dr. Curry, who was absolutely amazing. Covenant Healthcare Systems. There are pieces of this, and this is when you know you've tapped into something that is really amazing. When you begin to do what you're doing, and honestly, this has been a pledge and a desire of my heart. My goal has been to give young people the same types of opportunities that I've been afforded, and then some that I never knew existed. And so we were partnering up. I got Sandra Ware. Sandra, are you on the line with us right now?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Sandra. My partner in crime. We call ourselves the Wonder Twins. Gleek and the Wonder Twins. One would say form of, a gorilla. I guess that would be me, and she would be shape of a waterfall. And they would always come to rescue whenever the Super Friends were stuck. Well, they had superpowers, and so we use our superpowers to make great things happen. Sandra, great to Greetings to the Straight Talk audience once again. We welcome you. We welcome you. Why don't you give a shout out to our audience before we get into this conversation?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on Straight Talk. I enjoy the program every Sunday, and just to the Saginaw community, you all are awesome. You show up and show out for your children. So I am excited. I am visiting Saginaw by way of Detroit, but I feel like Saginaw is my second home. So thank you for just welcoming me. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Jeff Bulls, your son, was absolutely amazing. He was a quiet storm, but he put input in whenever it was necessary. There's so many people in the community who I got a chance to see some of their children. I've met a couple of their children, but hadn't met the other ones. And so it was a great experience for me. Now, Sandra, thank you for all that you do and leaning in for kids in our community. I certainly appreciate who you are. How would you define really quickly, just a quick note, how this weekend has been playing out, how the STEAM camp has played out, and has it exceeded your expectations?
So I will keep it brief, which is tough when I'm talking about young people, because I'm passionate about our young people. But in one word, amazing has to be the word. The young people, and when I say young, I'm talking about middle school students or eighth graders who are entering into the ninth grade this fall. But just watching young people really excel, really take on the charge and challenge of collaboration, of ideation around STEM-related initiatives, especially solar energy. For a number of the young people, they were introduced to solar energy in just a week's time. So to see them actually take issues that they were looking at, not just in their community or on a local level, but also a global level, and looking at their ideas from addressing homelessness and how solar energy and solar panels could benefit shelters in the city of Saginaw, to even just the Great Lakes and water. I mean, just to see them, again, short amount of time, but to come together and present their ideas, their findings in front of 75 people, including, you mentioned Dr. Curry, you mentioned the leaders from HSC, I believe State Representative Amos O'Neill, he was one of the judges. So having the opportunity to present their ideas and take on the hard questions. Absolutely. I mean, they have my attention. They have my admiration. They really did a phenomenal job. And I can't say enough about the young people. And I'm encouraged because they are making moves right now and ready to make an impact. So we just need to keep fighting to get them the resources to actually fund some of the viable ideas that they have. So I'm excited just to be a witness in terms of future greatness.
All right, Sandra, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, you said two things that caught my attention. You used the word collaboration. We want to talk about collaboration, and we want to talk about funding the types of programs that are necessary to impact these young people. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Straight Talk.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
What dealer in Michigan wants to approve you if you clear $350 per week?
Who is McDonald Kia?
What dealer will give you up to $5,000 more than Kelley Blue Book says it's worth?
Who is McDonald Kia?
Where can you get a new ride with zero security deposit for only $111 per month?
McDonald Kia.
Correct. At McDonald Kia, if you clear $350 per week, you could be driving a brand new 2021 Kia Soul. $111 per month lease for 36 months with $57.95 due at signing and zero security deposit. With a deal like that, why not get two for $222? McDonald Kia wants to see you in a brand new Kia. Get out of that car you hate. Get up to $5,000 over Kelley Blue Book fair market value at McDonaldKia.com. Unapproved credit to well-qualified lessees through Kia Financial Services. Sold S model 2534, 10,000 miles per year on a 36-month lease. Excludes taxes, title, license, and 230 fee. 700 Kia factory rebate. $57.95 due at signing on each. Tradeless dealer repairs. Offers don't combine. Expires 8/5/2021.
Tom Bodette here, still leaving the light on for the long-haul trucker. While we were locked down at home, you were out there day and night bringing us what we needed to make it through. And Motel 6 is here to help you make it through. Want to trade a loose load strap and a sore back for a good night's sleep? Yes, you do. Motel 6 has a place just down the road with a clean, comfortable room and a great low rate. You'll know it when you see it. I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Getting the COVID-19 vaccine is your shot to win. Michiganders 18 and older vaccinated between December 1st, 2020 and July 30th, 2021 are now eligible to win millions in prizes. Get details and enter at mishottowin.com. Subject to sweepstakes rules.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Okay, guys, we are back with more of Straight Talk. I was laughing because I listened to that commercial, Rob. It was like, hey, you can win millions if you were vaccinated. I thought about that. I was like, wait a minute, they need to pay or allow us to get in on the action. And I went to the website, Rob, and if you have been vaccinated between January and now, you can sign up and still be included.
Give me mine.
Man, I was in there all day long. I was like, yes, I want to sign up for the $1 million. I'll take the gift certificates. Yes, sign me up for all of that. So those of you who are listening, you can also sign up. And I can't remember what the website was. I missed it. But if you go on their Michigan prizes for vaccination, you can sign up and you can enlist yourself to win some great prizes. And there literally are millions of dollars available out there.
That's why I get to ignore commercials.
Man, it caught my attention. But anyway, so we were back here with Sandra. Sandra, at the turn of the commercial break, right before the commercial break, you said two things that caught my attention. You were talking about making sure that there was funding for programming that we needed for STEM. And then the second thing you talked about was collaboration. Oh, my goodness. When I look at how we started this, when your heart is in the right place and you begin in the right place, we started with HSC, and they were absolutely amazing in terms of their investment into the community. And this isn't the only thing that they're doing for the community. This was just a kickoff to the other programming, to the internships, to the externships, to classes that they're making available and paying for the kids to take place. They have a whole plethora of things that they're working with Saginaw Public School District, Dr. Roberts, and the rest of the crew over there. And I'm excited to be a part of that process. But when we began to do this, there were other people who began to lean in. I told you about Garber Management, how they leaned in a very financial, strong way. But then also Delta College with spacing and volunteers. They were absolutely amazing in terms of their hospitality and just making great things happen. Covenant Healthcare. And I want to tell Rebecca Laverick-Stroik, you are an all-star. They came in, and this was, I think, one of the most amazing pieces. Sandra, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. How Covenant Healthcare Systems brought their administrators over. And these are people who are used to solving high-level problems. And they took our children through a sequential process on how to identify the problem, how to solve the issue, and then how do we take all of this great information and put this in a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation or Google presentation that would highlight and captivate the audience's attention. That was something that we had not planned that was absolutely phenomenal. What would you say about their impact and their investment in the camp that just kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, I would say it was critical to the students. And again, it's placing adults in front of those students who have those leadership skills, who have that, again, using the word superpower, in terms of ideating, in terms of actually building out and mind mapping ideas, mind mapping around strategies, and really showing students just the power of the written word. So they were able to help students kind of visualize their ideas, write it out, and as I always say, make it make sense, if you will. And then being able to just kind of pair the teams with leadership coaches, I thought was very strategic, very vital, and a key component to helping the students actually deliver their presentations on Friday. So it was game changing.
And then, the list. And so these individuals, once they heard what we were doing, we had so many people that were buying in. We want to thank the great people out there of Microsoft who always do great things. Saginaw Arts Museum, they opened their doors to us, and it was a perfect space for the event to take place when we talk about the pitch competition. Young Guys Prolific Printing, they're out there. They made our t-shirts in record time. And then Legacy Print Company, they were out there making banners and signs for us. This is a new print company in KBS, Creative Business Solutions, over in Riverview Plaza. Let's patronize those individuals who are sewing into our kids. Let's talk a little bit real quick about the pitch competition, Sandra. And I'm going to let you go so that we can get into our conversation about reparations. All right. But I want us to share a little bit about the pitch competition. We talked about the judges. But let's talk about the content and the prowess in which our young people presented themselves and presented these high-level arguments on solar energy. What do you have to say about that, Sandra?
You know, I was really impressed. We had close to 25 students, and students just, again, who may not normally interact with each other, students just from different backgrounds. But I was really impressed with the way that they came together and they worked in teams, and we selected the team. So normally you would have kids kind of, you know, picking from their friends, but they were open and they just let us, again, assign different students to their teams, which, you know, again, we talk about the pivot and we talk about students making concessions. So they were very easy in terms of, okay, I may not necessarily know this student, but I'm willing to work with this student. I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to step back and allow other students to take on leadership roles. So that's something, again, that we promoted, was leadership and teamwork, and what that should look like, and being open to hearing everyone's ideas. So with that, in less than a week's time, I can honestly say that students were showing up on a high stage, if you will, and being able to support each other in ways that I think as adults we would be impressed with. And I also think we can take some of their leadership lessons and apply those to the boardroom, to our co-working spaces and different things like that, because they took initiative. They made sure everyone was heard. They made sure everyone was seen, and every idea was valued, even if that idea was not the idea that initially landed in the pitch competition. So I was really proud of them, and I was really proud of how the students were able to just kind of hone in on their gifts. And I won't call out any names because I would love to call out every name, but we had artists in the groups. We had students who considered themselves gamers and critical thinkers and engineers, but they were able to tap into their unique gift, their unique superpower, and really add that to what was being brought forth with the pitch competition.
Now, Sandra,
the way that,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, and the way all of that translated, again, in front of an audience of maybe close to 100 individuals, flawlessly, I just thought was really impressive, because you have the number one fear of most people in the world is public speaking.
And not only public speaking, but you're talking about solar energy. And one of the judges that you're pitching, two of the judges that you're pitching to, one from the Lumens Foundation, who is the teachers, they've come in and they've educated you on this. And then you have the sponsors, which is HSC, Hemlock Semiconductors, one of the largest consumers of energy and leading the front for solar energy, at the table, asking questions. I was so amazed at how poised those young people held it together, how they answered those questions. But I want to thank people like you, Sandra. You're not even from the Detroit community, but we are stealing all of your superpowers and gifts. We're going to use them here in this community. And those in the community that have leaned into this. And once again, shout out to those students who made great things happen over the past couple of weeks. We are now going into high school. What are we to anticipate, Sandra, for this high school session, which I believe is near to being completely full as well?
Yes. So the high school session kicks off tomorrow, and it's just an elevation. So we're continuing, again, to drive the STEAM conversation home across the board, exposing our students to careers in STEAM. And we're emphasizing the A as well, because a lot of times we focus on STEM, but that A, that art, is also important, but really taking it up a notch. So our students have been learning, again, from a middle school level about computer science and coding. So the languages that is used for developing websites. So if it's HTML, CSS, tomorrow they have their STEAM kits, and they're actually looking at a computer, the motherboard, and building
a computer,
coding,
right?
Yeah, and coding with that baseboard. So hands-on, getting right down, to it, and really looking at just the basics, the design engineering around coding. So I'm excited about that. We have some amazing presenters coming in. We're going to Delta Maine College to focus on a skilled trade around instrumentation. We're going back to HSC for our high school edition of the field trip. So again, just really looking forward to this next go around with the pitch competition. I'm expecting even greater things from our high schoolers, and I'm expecting that the challenge will be a little more intense as we level up with the high schoolers. So just honored to be a part of this process, and honored to see what the young people will bring. So yeah, I'm ready because they're challenging me. So I'm on my toes.
One of the most exciting outcomes is when, there were a couple students while we were, they were doing their pitches, and we had students that gave words. When you hear a young mind that you have been coaching for a short period of time, 2 weeks is a relatively short period of time to spend with kids, and then you hear those same young people use the words the way you were when they were talking about the definition of a leader. And I got a little caught up because I thought, in such a short period of time, in 2 weeks, we were able to make an impact in these young kids that they're remembering the life lessons that we've taught. They've not only been impacted for their careers and their education, but they've been impacted as people. They've been their educational endeavors have increased by 1,000. I think their ability to see that they can do anything. We had a situation where one of the young people was dimming their light. She came back at the end of the show like, listen, I may not be, in the words of Beyonce, I may not be a boss. I may not be bossy, but I am a boss. I mean, to hear that level of commitment, of growth, of self-empowerment, and the fact that these young people were not willing to dim their lights or to shrink for anybody is absolutely amazing. Sandra, I want to thank you for this time that we've had here today. If there's any last shout out, I don't know, you got 1 space available, 2 spaces available for some high school students. I don't know where we are with those final numbers. I know that we were pretty much close to being full, but give us a last shout out in terms of where we are with those numbers. And if someone wants to contact you saying, hey, I got a kid that's going into the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, that I want to be a part of this, why don't you give them some information?
Okay, so I will tell you now that essentially registration is closed. However, for anyone in your audience, if they call me directly, I may be able to open up 2 spots, but you have to contact me directly. So I will give you my direct number, which is area code 248-417-2709. Again, 248-417-2709. And Kareem, if I can leave you with these 3 words: access, exposure, and opportunity. Those 3 things are critical to the success of our young people. Those things are game changers. And I want to encourage companies, and I'm so appreciative of HSC and companies like JUL and their commitment to providing students with just that. Opportunities, access, and exposure, and resources. Our students need that and more. So we're not just trying to level the playing field, but we're trying to take our kids to the moon and beyond.
That's right.
And we see that it's possible. So let's go.
All right. Thank you so very much. If you guys are interested in connecting, Sandra said, if you hear it on this broadcast, and I want to thank Alpha Media, both KISS 107.1 and WSDW, both 100.5. And what's the other call letter, Rob, over there? 97.9, is it?
97.5. The Moose.
All right. So those two letters, I want to thank Alpha Media for allowing us, because we've been sharing this information. We've been bringing in leaders from the corporate community coming in to make these things happen. Sandra, thank you. Make great things happen. We thank you for your time and your attention to this matter and to our kids. And I look forward to starting with the high school students on tomorrow. Let's rock it out. Let's make it happen. Super twins, superpowers, making super things happen in our community. Thanks so very much.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right. For those of you who are still connected to this conversation, now I want you all to understand something. This did not happen overnight. And really, before we get into our conversation about reparations, because I think this is a great place to lean in, during the course of everything that was happening with George Floyd, and this is not to toot my own horn, but this is to say this is how we have to operate. When we want to see things happen in our community, we've got to begin to operate and move in the circles and use our influence in the areas that we have it. When George Floyd took place and everything was going crazy, my mind started bolstering. Yes, we're organizing. Yes, we're marching. Yes, we're having meetings and we're Zooming and we're doing all this. We're educating, we're empowering, we're equipping. But then I said, listen, what is it that we're going to do? What is going to be the ask that we have from America in terms of what happens with our kids? So I immediately I went to my Rolodex and I began to look at the corporate leaders and officials and relationships that I had. And I began to go to them and say, listen, this is what you must do for our community. This is absolutely necessary. We need you to make an impact. We need you to make an investment. And when you're thinking about it, invest again. And so we began those conversations about investing into our community. And so this HSC is the beginning of something really great that is happening. But there's another program called the Dow Treasure Academy that begins in this coming October. I'm going to be taking those 9th graders and they're going to be following them through 12th grade. And we're going to be investing with those young people and making great things happen. I believe that when you see a void in your community and you have tools or abilities that you can do something to make a change, you have a responsibility to do more than just talk. Yes, I am a pastor and I love God and I love his word. But at the end of the day, we've got to do more than just pray. Praying is powerful. But after you get up off your knees in prayer, what is the action that he's going to? God is an actionable God. And so I said, you know what? We've got to begin to do something. And so we've got to begin to lean in. As Sandra was talking, we continually talk about superpowers. What you may be able to do to you may not seem so super. But when you begin to invest yourself, you begin to see how you have a key component to something that is missing in our community. And we have a responsibility to make that thing happen. The next thing that I'm going to be leaning into now that we're getting this whole STEM, this education, this empowerment with computers and technology, I'm coming after you seniors that are 60 and older who need to be made sure that you understand technology. You need to understand your iPhone, that your iPhone is a high complex computer, your Android or what are those things. And so we're going to be empowering seniors because you cannot be left behind in the tech divide in this next move that we're having. And so many parents and grandparents especially are raising their grandchildren. So it's imperative that you understand technology. It's imperative that you understand what LinkedIn is. It's imperative that you understand what TikTok is, what an algorithm is, and how these things operate, because your children are having conversations with the world. And if you are not aware of what's going on, you'll be left behind, and so many things will happen right under your nose. So it's important. So we're going to begin to equip you. Keep your ear to the grindstones. KBS, we're going to be working with the House and the state and the Lieutenant Governor and our state representative, 95th Representative Amos O'Neill, on bringing classes in technology. Microsoft has already told me, Kareem, you get the classes together. We'll provide the training. Just make it happen. So I want to make sure that my community, I'm responsible for what happens in my community. We have to take responsibility and we have to take ownership of our communities so that we can begin to do whatever portion of this that we possibly can. So I said that to say this. So after we had gone to these companies and these companies have began to make investments because they recognize that Black folks are consumers. They understand the power of our dollar. We have trillions of dollars that we utilize on a regular basis, and there's never a demand for anything that we have. We just simply spend. We don't turn our money over in our own communities. And I'll tell you what empowered me. I've seen such a real desire for the first time in my life communities of color, black communities coming together, supporting their own. If you needed something, you say, is there someone that does this in my community? And it is so inspiring to see young entrepreneurs, old entrepreneurs, folks in the community begin to support our own. It's something that's never happened before. Do not allow this moment, this time, this great apex in time to go astray. Let's keep this thing going, all right? And in doing so, we now have to begin to engage and ask ourselves a question. I want to talk about reparations, and it's important because as we talk about what corporate America was due to invest in our communities, we also need to have a conversation. Is there a responsibility that our national government has to do in terms of an investment in communities who are ADOS, African descendants of slaves? So let's talk reparations for a second. Jamaica has asked, as I told you all, for reparations. Why not Americans, Black Americans? Jamaica put a price tag finally on slavery and has sent the British government the bill. Okay, this sounds like that real, I'm getting ready to have my Martin Luther King speech moment when he says that America wrote us a check and it came back what, Rob?
What's that?
When Dr. King said America wrote us a check and it came back what? Boy, insufficient funds.
That's right.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can, and I think it's important for us to have this conversation. So I want you guys to lean in and tune in. Let's get involved with this conversation. I want to hear what you have to say as well. So the state officials of the Caribbean nation said that they're asking Great Britain for $10.6 billion in reparation.
Billion as in B.
Billion as in B, absolutely. You know, Jamaica was formerly a colony and served as the center of the slave trade, with Africans kidnapped, enslaved, forced to work on plantation, which produced great things such as sugarcane, bananas, and other products. And that free and humane labor was greatly a part that enriched the slave owners. And so now we are looking to see what it is that we can do differently to bring a change in the community. One of the speakers, Oliver Grange, and I went back and I saw this, they had an interview with Reuters News Service. She said that they're hoping for a reparatory justice in all forms that would expect that for people to get justice and allow those injustices to be overturned. So they want damages for their ancestors, for the work and the deaths and the labor of their ancestors. When we look at this great country, Robert, we talk about this nation, and really what Jamaica is doing is they're positioning themselves and saying, look, this is what we were able to do. This is what we have done. This is the investment that our people have made, but we've never received a dividend on the work and the labor that we put in. When you look at America, what is your thought as it relates to reparations? Are we ready for this conversation?
Well, I remember you asked me that question before, and I said, yes, we are, but I don't know how they expect to pay it out or how they would justify it. You know, we have affirmative action programs and other things that are nice things to have, but we still have systemic racism in the country, and we still have systems that are designed to be prejudiced against people of color. So that's not, you know, that's like a take back of the little affirmative action things that you've given us. You know, we have to work twice as hard.
We're still dealing with stuff that we talk about overcoming.
Exactly. So, you know, you write me a check, you know, I'm not going to take your check. I want cash at this point. Now, how that's going to happen will happen through programs that are designed specifically for people of color who have been disenfranchised over the years, whether you have ancestors or not. However, we still run into a problem with people who are not of color, quote unquote, who will say, well, now you're being just specific, you're being prejudiced, you're being biased, and we're going to run into all of that. And so that's the fight with running. That's why we have had reparations over the years.
Rob, I'm going to be very clear. This is straight talk, no chaser, no filter. This I'm going to give it to you straight. Notice there is a disclaimer that comes on after I get off the radio that says that the opinions that are expressed, the reason we have not had reparations is not that they don't think that it's necessary. It doesn't even think that they think that we should get it. The reason we want to have reparations is because they're afraid of what we'll do when we do get it, and they want to keep their advantage over Black communities, and understanding that. And Jeff Bulls, you're out there, and I'm reading what you got. He says that the wealth gap has to be a target. Rob, you've been with me in this conversation that I've had with, some of our white counterparts, some of those CEOs that are head of companies. And what they have all said is like the real problem that we see is the wealth gap. And you're absolutely right.
I agree.
The wealth gap, opportunities are increasing, access is increasing. But what is not increasing and what is not closing is the gap between white American households and Black American households.
Kareem, now wait a minute. I all the places I've been around the world, I noticed one thing that's consistent. Asian Americans are good at turning their own money within themselves. And for some reason, our own people cannot do that. We don't teach, a lot of us do not teach our kids how to save money. People do not say, well, okay, buy Black, but don't necessarily buy Black because it's Black, buy because it's quality, and make sure that your product, if you are
I'm buying. I may not like it. I'm gonna give you a couple of chances though, Rob. I'm gonna buy it just to be Black.
I'm
right.
just saying, just like in our neighborhood, I don't mind that, but you got to give us quality service, the same thing. Otherwise, that person who is of color is going to go down to the person who's going to get better service. But we still should turn our money into our own community and do things in our own community and encourage that sort of thing. We don't do enough of that. We hear a lot of it from time to time. You might have Juneteenth, you may hear something like that. You may hear that on Black American Month, whatever it is, but you don't hear it 24/7, 365.
That's why we're here, Rob.
Right.
So we're here to push a different conversation.
Ever since I was 4 years old and I started getting into this sort of thing, I hear my parents and Black Panthers go through the house talk about this sort of thing. But over the years, I don't see a lot of it, and it saddens me.
But that's why we're here, because and you got to ask yourself a question. Let's get out of this victimizing the victim. Right. And what I mean by that is we say, we don't do this, we don't do this, we don't do this. There's a reason why we don't think to buy Black first, because we ain't never had nothing. So for a long period of time when we were growing up, there may have been one, I think about the Pagises growing up and some of the other, there were one or two Black folks who owned a store, and it was a corner store, a liquor store or something. But it was theirs. And I hold on. And I appreciate it and I respect that. But when we were talking about going shopping or going to a clothing store or going to a mall or going to a gas station, those were things that we've never owned. And there's reasons why we've never owned it. Right. And it's not just because we haven't had the wealth or the finances to own those things. It's because there are systems that are in place that prevent us from owning those things. Right. Now we're breaking the code and are being able to get in there. But now there's a whole mindset that, we're going to begin to build in our community, because that's another mindset out there that I see prevalent in NBA players. And I've worked with the NBA, and this is no disrespect. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't care if they don't like it anyways. They don't pay my bills anymore. But the fact of the matter is they think that white is right. And so they think that when I go, I got to get me a white attorney. When I go, I got to get me a white accountant. And when I go, I got to get me a white woman. And when I go, I got to have all of these things that are white because white is right. And they're going to know how to do it. But I'm just telling you the philosophy, and it drives me crazy. And it's because we have never seen, this is why what we are doing with these young people is so important. We have never seen Black lawyers in those positions. You know why? Because when the white agent comes in to get them, he's going to make sure he surrounds him by all of his friends, so all of those white individuals can tax him and they can take that money back to suburbia and not reinvest that money into our communities. So when you talk about the wealth gap, you're talking about a generational gap that has been created. Jeff's given us a number, is $900,000 gap between white America and Black America. That's where we have to start this repair.
We're in the 21st century. I'm thinking about Black Wall Street and another, I think it's in Harlem someplace, had a similar situation. If they could do it without the technology we have today, there is no excuse under the sun why we can't do it today.
And I think that this is the awakening of a generation, Rob. And I think that we are in a place that the kinds of conversations that I'm having, why is it that we have so many famous actors and celebrities and athletes and all of these things, but we don't see those things manifest? We'll see a program happen and we'll see, a jersey or a basketball, but why don't we see the next accountant? I love what LeBron James did, because LeBron James, and when I look at him, I can't stand LeBron. I can't stand LeBron James, I'll tell y'all. But as a man, as a person, as a philanthropist, as a community leader, he is the king when it comes to my understanding of how people operate people. Because he not only went to the league, but then he said, you know what? I'm building a dynasty and I'm bringing my community with me. So he brought his 4 friends, the 4 horsemen, and they were all challenged to learn a particular area. They weren't the best. They didn't know, but he understood before these other individuals got to where they were. Their daddy, their uncle, or whoever was not in those positions, they didn't know. So the only way that we're going to begin to change the tide is to begin education and opportunity and access. And we've got to deal with issues such as
education on it.
Absolutely, such as the wealth gap. Wealth disparity is a feature of how the economy is structured. It's an attack on us, It's not laziness and not working hard. It's intentional plunder of specific groups, Black people. And Jeff, you're absolutely right. So this is what I want to say as we talk about the wealth gap, because we've seen this before, and America is not lost on the concept of reparations, because we've seen America do this before. And as we look at this, we want to look at, but I need to say this. Let me pull this in, because y'all are taking me to a place I'm not ready to go yet, but I think it's a great place. I want to say this because this is the mentality that we're dealing with as we begin to talk about reparations. All right. So now Great Britain has done this, right? The reason why they came up with the million, I've said this at the top of the thing. The reason they came up with that number, was it $10.6 billion? Or whatever that number was because that is an appropriate equivalency to the number that the U.S., the British, not the U.S., but the Great Britain, the UK paid slave owners. Listen to what I'm saying, Rob. And this is the mentality even here in the United States that we are now currently dealing with. When slavery was abolished back in the 1600s in Europe, okay, 1834, in 1807, 1834, when they abolished it, 1807 in Europe, but in certain commonwealths, they gave up their rights as slaves in 1834, I think is what it was. When slavery was abolished, the UK recognized that those plantation owners would suffer an economic damage, a blow. And so the UK, the government gave an equivalent, well, it was 20 million pounds, a loan money to these slave owners, equivalent to $27.7 million in that day, to compensate for them no longer having slaves to do the labor that was feeding their society. So the owners who owned slaves got reparations, whereas the slaves who built the system got absolutely nothing. And so I think it was important for us to highlight this because we see the same mentality here in our country. And we see a country that wants to protect the owners and make sure that the owner, it's a capitalistic society. If you work hard, if you do this, all the things that you're saying, Jeff, that we should not be punished for our capitalistic. No, you're not being punished. You're being punished because you got free labor from our people for generations and they were never paid. However, you received the benefit of our labor. And so as we continue this conversation, I think it's important to keep that in mind. America has done this before, as I said. When we look at the Native American, right after World War II, Rob, Congress created something called the Indian Claims Commission. Now, the word Indian is now considered offensive. Native American, indigenous people, those who were originally here. But the name of the commission was, it's no longer around, the Indian Claims Commission, and they paid compensation, federal compensation to that was supposed to go to those Native Americans, the Indians, as they say. But what happened was, America has a problem with sunning everybody who's from it. So they wanted to be patriarchal in how they handled it, and they would not turn the money over to these indigenous people. Why? Because they said that they did not understand. Notice, same language. They wouldn't understand how to do or how to manage these large sums of money. So we're going to take these money and we're going to put these into account, and we will allow these things to accumulate interest. And when they need something, we'll shuck it. No, I don't need anybody to oversee my account. And we see the same type of conversation, Rob, that happens. Well, what if we gave Black people that much money? They're not, equipment. Give me a chance. Give me an opportunity. I will show you. Give us the money. We don't need anybody to Uncle Tom us or oversee us on this particular situation. Give us that money. Allow us to do what is necessary. And one of the key things that we begin to see is that even with those indigenous, those Native Americans that are out there, that some of their money did not just come, some of their benefit from reparations wasn't only financial, but it was also, land ownership. The freedom from taxation on certain things because of how land was taken from them. Their ownership of certain sections, like for instance, when we look at casinos, there's certain pieces of land that only they operate and they can hold. So those are benefits. Now they're creating a system for them that they can now create generational wealth for their own communities. Yes.
When I forget the first movie I saw was Spike Lee, but I never forget whichever movie it was. I can't think of it right now. When he ended the show with 40 acres and a mule. I thought of reparations.
Yes.
I was a teenager then. And so I'm thinking, these people got their land and whatnot. We need our 40 acres and a nice car and a nice home, whatever it is, and figuratively speaking. But land too, we would love to own land, whatever it is, because cash is not, this is its value. Give us gold, that is its value. Well, I never use its value to some point, but things of that sort.
You're not building no more land.
Right.
So that's true. Another comment we got coming in online, Jeff Bulls, the housing crash of 2008 killed a little bit of black wealth. Absolutely, because most people carry their wealth in their home, even though it's a depreciable asset. Most people carry, and that's American, carry their interest, their wealth in their homes. That existed because 90% of black wealth is in home ownership. You're absolutely right. White homeowners recovered back by 2020. Black people have yet to recover. There are still multiple layers. Let me tell you why, because when you said that, and Jeff, you brought up an interesting point, and I want to talk a little bit about what we did with the Japanese in terms of reparation as well. But the reality of the situation is that most of our home, we were always taught, get a home, you get a home. And the reality of it is probably one of the worst investments that you probably, once you pay it off, it's there, but it's never yours. Right. You're continually paying taxes on it. You're continually having to update it. You're having to get a new roof. It is a money pit. But we tell people that this is where you know how you invest and you build generational wealth. Now, I'll say this. When we talk about estate planning and putting your home in a trust so that you stop getting certain types of taxation, then that's a whole other conversation. But the other thing is the way that white America builds wealth is not through your home. It is through insurance. Black people, my people, listen, the way that white America has been able to build generational wealth is through insurance. There's a young man, I'm going to forget his name, Fred Lewis. He was also managing funds for Lady Gaga from Flint, doing great things. And he was like, Kareem, he showed me, look, one of your former presidents, this is their wealth management plan. I've been working with people who work with them. This is their wealth management plan. And it was insurance. And that insurance then fueled opportunities for entrepreneurship. It was the insurance that when people died, there was an investment of wealth that was a flourishment of wealth that was put into those other entities. We've got to begin to understand that it is through insurance that we can build wealth and begin to deal with some of the issues that we are now seeing. But let me get to the Japanese, because it's a whole lot of conversation here. When we talk about reparations, and I got 3 minutes for the Japanese folk. And I'm proud, I'm never hating on anybody for the benefits or the privileges that they get in our nation. I just want to make sure that we have equal access to the same things. When after World War II, Japanese Americans all received reparations. It happened about 40 years apart. There are two spans. And one point that each Japanese American that was affected got $20,000. Now, this is way back in 1948. $20,000 for each Japanese American that was displaced. Then later, they were given a larger claim of $1.6 billion that was paid to 82,219 eligible claimants at that time. That is reparations, Rob. They recognized that there was a wrongdoing because they lost their land, they were displaced, they lost value in their property, communities were destroyed, and they paid them because of what their loss was. Understand that America understands this process called reparations, and we need to realize that if we're ever going to do anything, that we have to begin to come together. I've seen and I've heard a great commentary here, Rob, and you said some things about how we can begin to build together and make great things happen. And it's important for us to stick together. So they received reparations. Now, this is the thing that kills me. If y'all listening, I need y'all to hear this. And I thank God for the Asian hate bill that was signed into law in this year. In 2020, hate against Japanese or Asian Americans was at an all-time high. We saw what took place in Atlanta with one of the parlors being shot up, and it took them less than a year to pass an Asian hate crime bill and put that thing into law when we've never been able to get a hate crime bill for the atrocities against Black America in the year that we have been here. We need to wake up as a community. You need to realize that what we're struggling for and what we're fighting for and what we're demanding is not lost to those who are hearing the demands that we're making. But these things will only become fruitful when we understand that every change happens at the ballot box. That's why the Republican Party is trying hook, line, and sinker to do everything that they can to stop the progress that we have had as it relates to your and my opportunity and our right to vote. So what am I saying? We need to tell Sleepy Joe, I'm going to start calling him Sleepy Joe now. We need to let him know that you are in office on the backs of black folks. If it were not for blacks in South Carolina and the consistent counties after that, you would not be where you need to, you wouldn't be in office. So we need you to stop playing games with our voting rights. We need you to stop being optimistic. There is no optimism. We've looked at the glass half full for long. Now there's a crack in the bottom of the glass. We need you to stand up. We need you to be strong. We need you to end the filibuster. And we need you to take rights and change to protect the rights of voting Americans and voting blacks in America. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is not the end of this conversation. This is only the tip of the iceberg. We'll continue to engage. I thank you for allowing me to be on my soapbox on today, but continually stay strong, stay connected, and stay tuned as we begin to come after those things that are important. Reparations belongs to us. Thank you for everybody. Take care, grace, and peace. God bless you all.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1. The views and opinions